What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Frank's Media and Reviews, and welcome to my 6th episode of the video series, The Physical Media Club. This is the video series where I get to know and connect with different content creators in the physical media world, the horror genre, and film reviewers. Today's guest goes old school. You probably asking, Frank, how old school? I'm talking about 1930s old school. My man has some of the most knowledgeable videos. You're going to say, I didn't even know that film existed. Through his love and knowledge for vintage and unique horror labels and films, his channel has grown to 22,000 subscribers since 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, Daniel from the Cobwebs channel.
Hey, man. Thank you so much for having me. It's true. I have been around since the 1930s. I'm a lot older than I look.
Exactly. He's a vamper.
That's my dream job, is to be a rich vampire in a Gothic mansion. I'm working on
it. You're almost there, buddy. You're almost there. So yeah, Daniel, thank you for joining the channel, coming on the interview. So thank you so much.
Absolutely, dude. Happy to be here. I'm a fan of your channel. You're one of the channels that I often watch while I'm doing dishes in the evening. So I appreciate the company.
Oh, thanks. We know each other so well. So how this interview process will go is I'll just ask a couple icebreaker questions and then just kind of dive into the typical, the interview process, video. So my first icebreaker question is, what's been your favorite movie experience with your child?
Yeah, so my kid is about 1.5, so we're just barely starting to get to the point where we're having movie experiences together. Because for a long time, like, the only thing you'd pay attention to was like Daniel Tiger or something like that. But it's a classic in this household. But I did take him to the movie theater for the first time fairly recently, because my buddy Chris from the Figure Out Films YouTube channel, he was in town visiting me, and he's actually like a big unironic Garfield fan. It's one of his weird quirks. And the Garfield movie just came out, so he wanted to see it. And I'm like, well, if I'm going to go see the Garfield movie, like, I need to take my kid. And I didn't know if he could handle being in the movie theater, because he's like 1.5. So I'm like, we're going to try it. And I took him, and he sat in my lap and watched the movie the entire time. I was so impressed. He only talked a couple of times. Like, he'd sometimes point at the screen and say Poe, because we have a cat named Poe. So cats are Poe. But he did a great job, and I was like so proud. And then after that, because my wife was like sad she missed out on the experience, because she didn't even think it was going to work. She's like, okay, yeah, you can try it. The two of us took him to see Inside Out 2, and that didn't go quite as well. He got a little antsier, but still not bad. No tantrums. I only had to take him to chill out of the theater once. So he's doing pretty good with the movie theater so far, which is super exciting for me.
Nice. What's been your favorite moment with your wife?
Oh, how personal are we getting here?
Whatever.
I'll give it movie related. I'll tell you, there was this one time. So we went to college together, and so we dated my whole time at that college. And one time I'm hanging out with, again, my buddy Chris. We were college roommates. I'm hanging out with him, and Stephanie, my wife, is there. And I put on, I think I can grab it. Yes. I put on my Scream Factory Blu-ray of From Beyond from Stuart Gordon. Nice. And I'm thinking, there's no way she's going to watch this. She's going to see a bit of this and leave. But I put it on. She watched the whole thing, and she loved it. And we had so much fun watching this. And that was a great memory. I really enjoyed that.
Hell yeah, man! Were you guys already married, or?
No, we dated in college. We got engaged our senior year, and then we got married right after college.
Okay, because that's when she was the one. I mean, From Beyond. That is such a great movie, man. Oh my goodness!
I also showed her fairly early in our relationship. I showed her Fright Night, because that's my favorite movie. And she loved that. And she was jumping at all the jump scares and everything. And it was so fun. It was a blast. But for a long time while we were dating, I was trying to scare her with a movie, because her parents are anti-horror. They've gotten used to it with me now. They don't care anymore. But at first they're horror is bad. So she never watched it growing up. So I mostly introduced her to horror movies. And I kept trying to scare her with movies, and she was unscarable. Like, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, you've never watched horror movies. Like, how is none of this stuff scaring you? Finally, the movie that did it, and I know it's a big favorite of yours, was Candyman. We watched Candyman, freaked her out. And I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Tony Todd, baby.
Yeah.
Dude. So as I mentioned, that you originally started your the Cobwebs channel back in 2021. However, going through your videos, I did some digging, and on your 10K subscriber celebration video, you mentioned how back in 2013, I believe, that's when you kind of first dived into YouTube. And can you just talk me through that, like, that beginning of the stages, and then basically you started your channel, like the Daniel channel, or Daniel something, back in 2021. So yeah, can you just just talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, it's technically the same channel. I just changed the name when I relaunched it. But yeah, I was doing the YouTube thing from 2013 to 2014. Now I kind of wish I stuck with it, because like starting in 2013, like that's pretty good, like it's way more crowded in space now than it was then.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just started it because I got really into, the basic movie YouTube channels that everybody watched back then. It was Chris Stuckman, Jeremy Johns, John Flickinger, Schmoes Note. Like, I watched all those and I was like, oh, I like this. I could do this. And I got Movie Pass around that time, because some people don't know Movie Pass is that old. It was around back then. It was just $30 a month. They hadn't slashed their price down to $10 a month yet. So I just started going to see like every movie in the theaters and was just reviewing them. And I was just doing basic new movie reviews. And looking back on it, I realized it was not successful. It was not good. I look back on those videos, because I still have those videos. I never deleted them. They're just private. And like, I just gave no thought to like how the picture looks, how the sound sounds. I didn't think about any of those things. And I also like didn't lean into anything that makes me unique, because I have a lot of unique tastes, more so now than then, but still, like, and I grew up on a lot of unusual stuff, and I didn't lean into any of that. I was just like reviewing the new movies. So it was really boring. But yeah, I did that for a while. It didn't go anywhere. And I don't remember why I stopped. Like, I don't remember having the decision of like, this sucks, I'm quitting. I think it just kind of faded out of my life and I just kind of forgot about it. So, but yeah, I started way back then and finally kicked it back off. I guess it was in 2021. I may have forgotten if you didn't mention it, but
yeah, I'm doing my research.
Yeah.
And it's just your evolution, man, is been pretty awesome. Like I said, so like for me, when I first started to get into like YouTube physical media type of stuff, one of my first ones was Ken, from a few years ago, and since I think maybe right before I became a creator, that's when I actually saw your channel. And what I love about your channel, and that's one of the main reasons why I wanted to bring you on, is because you just have this, you have a badass channel, dude. You like your knowledge of classic, films, gothic films, just it's just pretty dang cool. The vintage, like, just films that like I didn't even know about. You're just so knowledgeable about it, and the way that you describe it in your videos, and your personality that comes out through the videos. It's just a fun listen to, and it's fun to watch. Let's talk about your channel. I know I just gushed about your dang channel, but yeah, tell us, like, what's all your channel about?
Yeah, at this point, it's gone through a little bit of evolution, but at this point, I kind of consider it like a horror film history channel, because I'm mostly covering horror movies from the distant past. I talk a lot about like the 30s through the 70s and the 80s. I do a lot of 80s content at this point too. When I first started the channel, when I first restarted the channel back, it was just focused on like old movies in general, because at that time I hosted the Cobwebs podcast, because I did a podcast since 2019 using the Cobwebs name that was just talking about like classic cinema, old movies. And that's kind of what the YouTube channel was. And I was kind of, you know, playing around with different genres. And then last Halloween season, I like dove heavy into horror, like starting in August, because I get hyped up for the Halloween season early, as you can see.
Yeah.
And like the channel did like really, really well, as I was just talking about horror. And I was discovering that like, oh, like I really just enjoy, because horror is easily my favorite genre. It's not the only genre I watch, but I discovered it was just my favorite genre to make videos about, because I kind of just liked making kind of spooky videos. And that did well. And then when I went to November, I, you know, was like, okay, Halloween season's over, kind of backed off the horror. And then I was like, I miss it. Like, that's kind of all I want to do. So I just jumped back into it, and I've been almost horror exclusive since then. So yeah, I focus on the history of horror films because, you know, I do think that when somebody, you know, jumps into a YouTube channel, they should think about, well, what makes me unique? What do I bring that's like different from all the other channels? And for me, I'm very knowledgeable about classic horror, old horror, just because I really like that stuff. You know, there's like a lot of other pockets of cinema that I'm not knowledgeable about because I don't really care about that stuff. But I just love the old Gothic horror movies and classic horror movies and 80s horror movies and retro slashers. I'm just super obsessed with that stuff, have been since I was a kid. So, you know, that kind of like, I realized that's where I can make like unique videos easily, because like, that's just genuinely what I enjoy. So that, you know, that's basically what I do. And I do a lot of rankings, because I discovered rankings did really well for my channel. And I would make like ranking lists anyway in my free time before then, because I enjoy it, and it doesn't stress me out, because I talk to people and like ranking stresses them out. They're like, oh no, where do I put stuff? And I don't care that much. Like, it's just kind of a fun thing for me. So it's easy for me. And yeah, so there's a lot of ranking lists, top 10s, top 15s. I'm about to release my first top 30 list. So a lot of stuff like that over on the channel.
Nice. Was there a creator that YouTube creator that inspired you getting into, you know, the YouTube channel, or, you know, universe?
yeah, there's a lot. I'm a big YouTube watcher. You know, when I started back in 2013, it was a lot of those, you know, the basic channels, the normal channels that everybody knows. I think because I got really into podcasting around, you know, 2019, 2020, and I listened to a lot of podcasts. Through podcasts, I discovered a couple of YouTube channels, which are Just the Discs, which is hosted by Brian Sauer from the Pure Cinema podcast, and Serial at Midnight, hosted by Heath Holland, because he used to be on a podcast, and I kind of discovered his YouTube channel. And I think those two were probably the most inspiring to me when I first started back up. But at this point, you know, I'm just constantly inspired by tons of different creators. I love YouTube at this point. Huge fan of Ken from Mid-Level Media, huge fan of Garrett from Born to Be Rad. I like some horror specific channels like Rockland Graves and the Splattercast and Beyond the Void horror podcast. And then for like new up and comers, really like you, Love and Chase from AVA Pop Culture. His channel is so much fun. So yeah, I'm just, you know, and CHH, Planet CHH for sure. So yeah, there are a lot of creators that I really enjoy and constantly get inspired. And I would say like at this point, my favorite, like basic, I don't want to say basic, but like reviewing normal new movie channels, really enjoy Sean Chandler Talks About, and really enjoy Cody Leach, who I know you've talked to on this channel before. So they inspire me as well.
Yeah, great. My name does not even belong in all those names. So thank you, man.
Yeah,
I really appreciate it. I appreciate it. What video do you remember your first video that was like a hit? You're like, oh my God, like I can't believe it.
Yeah, it was and I was like fortunate when I started back that I had already built somewhat of an audience from a podcast. So I kind of didn't start completely from scratch, which was nice. But my first video that was a hit was I went over my whole collection of Hammer films on Screen Factory Blu-ray. Because I don't know, I just did that. I just talked about all of the Hammer Screen Factories I have. And that video got like 3,000 views after a certain amount of time. And I was like, whoa. And I realized that's because, you know, a lot of people talk about horror movies, Screen Factory, but a lot of the Screen Factory collectors don't collect the Hammer stuff. So like, I'm an unusual person that I can make that video. And that's when I kind of realized that like, to look for videos that like I can do that most other people can't do. That's kind of like, that's what I think is like a really good recipe for success on YouTube. Like, what can I easily do that would be really hard for other people? And for me, I could talk about all the Scream Factory Hammer Blu-rays because I've been collecting them all since day one. So that was my first hit video. And for a long time, it was my biggest video. Then I quit the YouTube channel for a while, for like a year. Again, I don't remember why. Like, I just kind of just stopped, and I don't know, I moved on with my life. And then I decided to come back, and I made a video on my top 10 classic noir films, because it was November. I was like, oh, Noirvember. I was like, I'll just do this. And that video like exploded. Like, it got like 10,000 views like pretty quickly. And I was like, what? It's also my worst quality video, because my mic wasn't working while I recorded it. So the sound sounds awful. And I just put it out anyway, because I'm like, well, I'm just like coming back after a year of quitting. Like, no one's going to watch this anyway. I just need to get something out. And then that video blew up. And that's when I realized, like, oh, ranking lists is a pretty good idea for me. So yeah, that was my, like, if that video wasn't a hit, I don't know if I would still be doing it now, because I'd already quit for a while and was just like giving it a shot one more time. But then since that video was a hit, it like gave me the kickstart. I don't know if YouTube just decided we're going to push this video so this guy will keep going, so we'll get more videos on our platform. I don't know, but that's kind of how it worked for me.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, man. YouTube and algorithm, it's so random.
Yeah.
But honestly, I just kind of thought about it right now. What's been the video that you've been the most proud of?
That's a good question. I really like a video I did on my top 10 haunted house. No, it was my top 20 haunted house movies. Cause I also like, it is a list video, but it's also a little bit of a skit. I like really cheesed it up. And I basically talked about how like I'm filming this video in a haunted house, and this whole video is going to be a ritual to contact the spirits. And I lit candles and everything. And then my wife and I recorded spooky ghost sounds like, ooh. And at one point I input those in, and I'm like, oh my gosh, do you hear that? The ghosts are contacting us. And it was just really fun. It was a fun video. And that video did well. And then like in the past couple of months, it like YouTube algorithm hit it again. And now it's like my second biggest video, I think, which is cool. So I'm really proud of that one. And I'll say one other one. Last Halloween season, I did a video on like top 10 underrated Halloween movies. And that one I also kind of skidded, and I like carved a pumpkin in the video, and I just made the video as Halloween-y as I could. And it was really fun. So I really enjoyed those two. I kind of like it when it is a video where I talk about movies, but I do like a little extra thing in there. Like that just kind of gets the creative juices flowing, you know?
Yeah. And that's, to me, because I saw that video just briefly. It was more of like a natural type of video. I mean, because again, you're carving a damn pumpkin on a video, and you're just just doing your topic of the video. But I think that type of video is just one. I think it's pretty unique, but it just makes the viewer like just comfortable. Like,
that's good. That's good to
yeah.
hear.
So at least that's how I felt
Cool.
when watching videos, or just kind of see that from other content creators as well. So I'm always kind of trying to think of like other ideas to kind of come up with. So, how do you balance your being a YouTuber, and a family, work? Like, how do you do that? Because you're putting out content pretty regular as well. So
yeah, it's not always easy, because there isn't just the time of like filming the videos and editing the videos, because I do quite a bit of editing. But then also you got to watch movies, right? Like, and I don't make a lot of videos where I talk about like Blu-rays I haven't seen, or like, oh, I haven't seen this in a long time, but I kind of remember. Like, I really try to have something to say about the movies I talk about, which is hard. And I have a full-time job, I have a wife and a son, and life. But I find whatever time I can to like edit. I often edit on my lunch break. As far as watching movies, I usually have like a couple hours at the end of the day to myself most days. So that's usually when I'll get a movie watched, or I'll get a video filmed or something. I'm very intentional with my time. Like, I hear other people talk about how like, oh, I just spent all this time like scrolling through the streaming service trying to find something to watch, or I've been looking over my collection for an hour, trying to decide. And I never do that. Like every night, if I'm going to watch a movie, I know exactly what I'm going to watch. I get right to it because I can't afford to waste any time, and wasting time makes me very uncomfortable. Like I don't know if it's like an anxiety thing, but I like just feel the need to like make sure I'm doing something that like matters with my time. So it makes me uncomfortable just like sit and scroll through my phone or something.
Mm-hmm.
But so that's basically it. I get some time at the end of the day, try to edit on my lunch break, and just try to do the best I can with the time I have, and still make my wife, feel loved and make sure she gets some attention.
Yeah, I mean, people know on my channel, full-time job. I have 3 kids, family. I mean, it's pretty damn hard, man. And
Mm-hmm.
so I definitely, can uh, so much praise for like people who have been doing this for such a long time, because it's hard to balance it. So yeah, it's the struggles of being a YouTuber. What's been your experience like with the YouTube community, like from when you first started to where it's at now?
It's been good. I don't think I'm like the best person at like being a part of a community. Like I try, but it's hard to have too much time for it. I will say the first person that was like really welcoming to me was Garrett from Born to Be Rad. That's why I call him the nicest person on YouTube. Like all I did was, hop on one of his live streams and like talk to him a little bit, and he was just super nice, super welcoming. Hyped up my channel. He was the first person to have me on his channel. We did an episode of Brad Company. He was the first person that reached out. So that was, encouraging. Like that was really nice. And since then, I've gotten to know some more people. Like I've really enjoyed getting to know Ken and being on his channel and such. But one thing that I've started to do to like build a little bit more community, and it's maybe not, the best thing for like socializing, but I started, I did a video last month where I did a top 10 list, but I only talked about 5 of the movies, and I asked 5 other YouTubers to like submit short videos where they talk about a movie. And like, I know that's not like the most social way to build community, but I knew it would like perform a lot better than like some kind of roundtable live stream. And it performed very well. And I wanted to get like more eyes on these people's channels. And I'm doing another one at the end of this month that I'm excited for. So that's been like one idea that I've had to, to make my channel a little bit more a part of something. But I would like to collaborate more. It is just tough to find the time for sure.
Yeah, I love that video because I wasn't expecting it, and it was pretty cool to see the people out on there. So yeah, that was pretty dang cool.
Cool.
So well, you kind of just talked about it just a little bit. The support from the YouTube content creators within the horror physical media community, because what I've uh, experienced is that they all kind of just blend in. Like the horror community and the physical media community, at least on YouTube, at least for my interactions. I mean, we're all just kind of like all in the same pot in some ways.
Yeah.
So and my experience it's been very supportive, and you kind of just touched upon it too. Like it seems like they've been pretty supportive from the beginning to obviously to where you're at now. But
Oh yeah. Great people, very supportive people. And I've started like for a while I feel like I was just kind of part of the physical media community, because that is my favorite stuff to watch. Like I do just really enjoy physical media YouTube. But I've started to like get into more of like the horror community and such. And the guys over at Splattercast are really, really good about being like a hub of community, and that they've been very welcoming to me, which has been very helpful. And they've like even helped me get like industry contacts to like get like screeners and stuff, which has been so nice of them. So big shout out to them. They've been very helpful to me, like getting to know more of the horror corner that's not just like the physical media people, But you're right, there is a lot of blending for sure.
Mm-hmm. What are your personal goals for your YouTube channel this year?
Well, my goal was 20,000 subscribers, but then I hit it last month. So, that's pretty cool. What is the goal now? I don't know. I don't even want to be the person who's saying like, my goal is 50,000 subscribers. Cause like, ultimately who cares? Subscriber count is not. Subscriber count is nice. It's not that important because a high subscriber count does not guarantee you're going to get a high amount of views on your videos, because we all subscribe to people that we don't actually watch. And I do not get 20,000 views on every video, for sure. So like, I think my goals are more just like videos I want to make, because I've got a lot of ideas for videos that I really want to make. It's always just more ideas than I have time for. So I'm just trying to chip away at it. So I've got certain videos that I really, really want to make. But I don't have like super specific goals at this point. Yeah, I don't know. Man. Maybe you can give me some ideas.
No worries, man. I know for me, mine is just trying to connecting with as much physical media and the horror content creators and the community itself, because I love networking. I love connecting with people. That's the main reason why I joined YouTube, is for that social interaction. And so yeah, so that's one of my goals.
That's good. I'll take that one.
Good. How big is your physical media collection?
Yeah, I basically know that because I fairly recently did a video on my entire collection, and I counted that it's a little over 1,200. So yeah, it's right around there because I haven't gotten too much since then. So it's around 1,200 in Blu-rays. I've got some DVD. If you count DVDs too, maybe it's closer to 1,300, something like that.
Okay, nice. Why and when did you start collecting physical media?
Well, it kind of has been my whole life, because like when I was a kid, like the VHS collection and then the DVD collection was very important for my family and I. And like every Christmas or every birthday for my whole life, I would always get some movies on physical media. And like it was especially exciting on Christmas, because then we would like watch the movies that we got on DVD or VHS or whatever on Christmas. And it was always so much fun. And then when I moved out of the house, living on my own. I didn't go to college for a couple of years. I'm like 19, just working a job. I started building up a DVD collection. I was resistant to Blu-rays at that point. I was like, there's no difference. Of course, I had a really crappy TV, so of course I didn't see the difference. But I started building up a DVD collection. I had kind of a financial emergency, and I didn't want to ask my parents for money, so I sold off my DVD collection just to get some quick money. And then at that point, I was like, well, if I'm starting over, I guess I might as well maybe go to Blu-ray. So I remember the first Blu-ray that I got was Die Hard, just because I felt like watching Die Hard. I was like, well, I'll buy the Blu-ray since I'm starting over. And then it started going from there. At that point, most of my collecting was through pawn shops and thrift stores. So I did a lot of pawn shopping and thrifting. So I'm looking for Blu-rays like $3-4 a piece, something like that. Cause I was into it. I was really enjoying it, but like, I didn't have any money because I was just working some basic job, like 19, 20 years old. And I remember the first boutique Blu-ray I got was The Howling from Scream Factory. And I didn't know what Scream Factory was, but I was just at this store and they had it. And I was like, this is a really cool cover. I was like, this is some 80s horror werewolf movie. Like, I would like to see that. I'm just going to buy this. So I bought it, watched it, enjoyed the movie. And then I got into Scream Factory. Scream Factory was by like my main boutique thing for a long time. But the collecting was slow. Because again, like around that point, I'm going to college, still don't have very much money. So I would buy Blu-rays as I could. But then when I graduated college in 2018, got an adult job, then the collecting really started ramping up. So now it is much, much bigger. My wife talks about how, like, do you remember when we got our first apartment, how you had like that shelf, like this size? Like, how is it like this now? And I'm like, I
don't know. Yep. I had the same conversation with my wife not too long ago.
Sometimes she just comes down here and she's like, you have too many movies. And I'm like, no, I don't. You have no idea how many movies I don't have.
Damn right, man. Was there a parent or a family member that influenced you into becoming a physical media collector?
I don't know if it's quite physical media, I would say, but for movies, it's definitely my dad for sure. My dad is my main, person introducing me to movies growing up. My dad, as a kid, was obsessed with the Universal monsters, so I got obsessed with the Universal monsters growing up because he introduced those to me. When I was a kid, my dad made home movie versions of like Dracula and Frankenstein with us kids as the actors. So like we have a
Oh
filmed
my
black and white version of Frankenstein where I'm Dr. Frankenstein. I'm like 9 years old. We have one where I'm Dracula and my siblings are the other characters. And he edited them together and added score and stuff. They're pretty fun to go back and
What? Oh
rewatch.
my gosh. Dude, that would
Yeah,
be so fun to watch and do. That's so memorable, man.
it
Holy cow.
is. Yeah, and like I think about how like I would like to do something like that
Wow.
with my kids, but I almost think I'm like too into movies. That would be like too much of a perfectionist. And like that's not the point. And we were not perfectionists, when we made those.
Yeah, I mean, you just kind of touched upon it's like that's something that you'll always remember.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, you just gave me a dang good idea. So because my kids and my wife knows that like when it's Halloween season, like that is my jam.
Oh yeah.
I start thinking about Halloween costumes in July around now. Uh, I kind of go all out. I got like special ordered like Ghostbuster outfits with like specialized name tags for our kids and my wife
Nice.
and me. Like I love Halloween, man. So that's just something that I wanted to do as well, like just to have positive memories for the kids. And that's something, Danny. Dude, I wish yeah, that's a kick-ass memory, man. Seriously. Also, you just mentioned it earlier. Is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
Yes. I have a very simple definition of what a Christmas movie is. If the movie takes place around Christmas, if it's got Christmas stuff in it, it's a Christmas movie. I hear all these people make these elaborate, extravagant arguments like, well, it has to give you the Christmas spirit and it has to like be heartwarming, blah, blah. And I'm like, that's just too hard to define. Like, if it takes place at Christmas, it's a Christmas movie, done. And like, my mom will like argue with me. And because she thinks that's terrible, Die Hard's not a Christmas movie, and she'll be like, a Christmas movie has to like be heartwarming, make you happy. And I'm like, watching Die Hard makes me a lot more happy than watching these Hallmark movies that you watch. So
Mhm.
Die Hard fills me with joy a lot more than watching the Santa Claus 3 fills me with joy.
Yeah, no kidding. It's not Christmas until Hans falls over. And then oh gosh, what was I gonna say? You know what? I just had a brain fart. I can't even remember what I was gonna say. But yeah, Die Hard for sure, a Christmas movie. Oh, Trading Places. I consider that a Christmas movie. It
Oh
takes place
yeah.
on Christmas, man. So and Dan Aykroyd is dressed as Santa Claus.
Hell yeah, I love
Yeah.
Trading Places. It's so great. I discovered it only within the last few years. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a fantastic movie.
It's so funny. Old
Yeah.
school Eddie Murphy is one of the best. Oh my gosh.
Oh,
And
Jamie
his
Lee Curtis in that movie.
yeah, life changing.
Oh man.
That's how it was for me with Selma Hayek and Michelle Pfeiffer, man. They changed
Oh
and
yeah.
Nicole Kidman changed my life, man.
Oh, Nicole
Dude.
Kidman in Batman Forever.
Batman Forever and To Die For.
See, I think my like top two like that are Cameron Diaz in The Mask and Catherine Zeta-Jones in The Mask of Zorro. Life-changing events.
A little off topic, guys, but damn, we gotta talk about that. What we'll kind of get into it now. What are your top 5 favorite movies in your collection?
Okay, I went ahead and grabbed them, and it's tough because like I've never done like top movies of all time list on my channel. I know I should. It's just kind of scary to do. I think my top 4 movies of all time is rock solid. It's that fifth that's really hard. So I grabbed 2. It came down to 2, and they're both like really basic favorite movies. So I feel like I'm just going to grab them both. And it's Halloween and Star Wars: A New Hope, the original Star Wars. So I'm putting those as a tie for number 5. Basic favorite movies, but I just love these so much. But Halloween is kind of less basic for me because I used to consider my favorite slasher movie to be Nightmare on Elm Street, and I would put Nightmare on Elm Street easily above Halloween. But it's just changed over the years, and I found I rewatch Halloween more. It's become such a comfort movie. John Carpenter is my favorite director. So it's become Halloween over Nightmare on Elm Street at this point. And then the original Star Wars, like almost nothing in the world makes me happier. Like it's just so, it's like the most fun movie ever made.
Daniel, there ain't nothing wrong with being basic.
Thank you.
You be you, boo.
Thank you.
Dude, yeah. Oh, so go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
But good movies, right? You support?
Fantastic movies. I was literally in the same boat with you with the Halloween and Nightmare on Elm Street because I was just on Ashley and Ken's horror channel, Sledgehammer Horror, and my first horror movie that I got into that I could remember was Nightmare on Elm Street, and forever that was my go-to horror. Then of course I discovered like Candyman, but then it evolved to like Halloween, and to this day, like Halloween, it is an annual watch. I don't watch Nightmare on Elm Street, even though it's like one of my favorite films of all time. To me, like Halloween itself and The Thing, I mean, those are movies that I watch religiously, sometimes 2 to 3 times a year, because it's just masterpieces to me.
Yeah.
And same thing with The New Hope. I mean, damn, hello, Star Wars. So, but like, yeah, man, those are the movies that made you. So don't ever apologize for that. That's for sure.
Thank you. My top 4 I feel real good about. So my number 4 is The Wolfman, 1941. It's my favorite Universal Monsters movie. Holy cow. I just think it's a absolutely perfect horror movie. Like Lon Chaney Jr. is so sympathetic in the lead. I love him so much. But then when he becomes the Wolfman, it's like some of the greatest makeup ever. The setting of like the fog and the crooked trees is so cool. And I think this is one of the greatest horror scores of all time. And people don't talk about that very much, but like, holy cow, the score is perfection in The Wolfman. So this is another movie. It just like makes me happier than like almost anything else. Love it.
You had a fantastic video of werewolves movies.
Oh, thanks. That's the video I've by far gotten the most shit for ever. But thank you.
What I think I really like that video, man. And I didn't see The Wolfman until I got the 4K.
Oh, okay.
And one of my favorite Universal classic movies is Frankenstein. Like, damn, that movie is so good. But yeah, Wolfman, man, yeah. So go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
Next up, this one might surprise you because it's not the kind of thing I normally talk about. But it's Spider-Man 2, Sam Raimi Spider-Man 2. The first 2 Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies were incredibly important to me when I was a kid. Like they meant everything to me. Star Wars was important to me too, obviously. But like, for an 80s kid, Star Wars was what the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies were for me. Like they were like life-changing. Like I saw the original in theaters when I was about eight. And then I saw Spider-Man 2 2 years later, and it was just the greatest thing ever. And I do think this is easily the best superhero movie ever made for me. It's just it's like it's a comic book superhero movie where you get a filmmaker like directly from a filmmaker's voice, and it feels so distinctive and like an artist made it. And it's so emotional on a character level, and it's so well acted. And the greatest superhero villain of all time, I think, is Alfred Molina as Doc Ock. God, I love Spider-Man 2. I think it's amazing.
Yeah. There's so many good actors in that damn movie. William Dafoe and that, like, seriously, old school. At least that Sam Raimi trilogy. Well, the first 2 is very, very good. Yeah. Good. Wonderful pick, man.
And then number 2 for a long time was my favorite movie. I changed in the past few years, but Jaws, another kind of basic pick, but like, how can you not go with Jaws? I think Jaws is the greatest movie ever made. My number 1 is like my favorite movie ever made, but it's not the greatest movie ever made, but Jaws is the greatest movie ever made, I think.
Why do you think?
Well, I think it's like the most perfectly made movie that's also the most entertaining, because there are other movies like, I hate to pick on Citizen Kane, but people, Citizen Kane for so long was held up. And I get why. Like, I get what it was that it did that was groundbreaking in its time that no one else had done before. I get it. But it's like not that entertaining. But like Jaws is like the most entertaining thing ever. Like it's so fun. The characters are amazing. The script is perfect. The shark is perfect. This is when I showed to my wife and she did not like, by the way, which was quite the moment. But ultimately I figured out the reason was because it's a bunch of dudes, and she just cannot get into a movie that's just like a bunch of guys. That's why I've never showed her The Thing. She would hate it. So I understand. I get it. That's fine. But also, this is another movie that meant the world to me as a kid because I wanted to see it so bad because I was really into sharks and I was like going through a phase where I like wanted to be a marine biologist or something. that was brief. But I was obsessed with sharks. I get books about sharks in the library all the time and I wanted to see this. But this is the movie that traumatized my mom more than anything because her parents took her to see it when she was like 6 or something like that. And it was the most horrifying experience of her life was watching Jaws. So she would not let me watch this for a long time. And then I can't remember if it was for my birthday or for Christmas. I think it was for Christmas. My parents gave me the DVD for Jaws and it was a big deal. But also it came with a letter written by my mom with a list of rules that came with that DVD. Couldn't watch it around her, could not watch it around my sisters, all this stuff about how I had to be careful with this DVD. So it was a big freaking deal getting that movie.
How old
and it
were
lived
you?
up to everything. It was like the best thing ever. Oh, I think you froze up. Oh, I think you're back.
How old were you when that movie when you received it?
I don't remember. Probably like 10 or 11, something like that. I'd have to ask my parents. They could tell me for sure.
Yeah, that's nice. And then your number one?
My favorite movie of all time is Fright Night. 1985. Yep. This is one I did not grow up with. I saw it as an adult. I just watched it on Netflix because there was a time when Netflix had cool movies on there and they don't really anymore. But I just put it on. And I remember it was like just one early morning and I like could not believe that movie existed. Like it was so perfectly made for me. It was like the most fun thing I'd ever seen in my life. And I was just like, how on earth have I never seen this? So I showed it to my dad. I started showing it to like everybody I know. It's the movie I recommended the most to people and it's never disappointed. Like people always have fun with it. They always enjoy it. It just perfectly melds like so many things I love. Like it's a great 80s teen comedy, but it's a great 80s monster movie with great practical effects. But it's also an homage to classic vampire movies and Hammer films and stuff like that. So it's just kind of got everything I love. And this 4K Steelbook is awesome. For a long time, I just had this on like this Australian import Blu-ray that looked terrible, but it was like the only way I could buy it. But so happy to have it on 4K now.
Oh yeah, and plus he's like one of the best vampires.
Oh yeah, I love him so much,
dude. He's so charismatic and he's so good, man. Oh my god, I'm uncussed, man. I fucking hate Brewster.
Evil Ed.
Oh, dude,
this is make or break for people. I know.
Oh my god, like I moved past it, of course, because Fright Night is one of my favorite vampire movies. But yeah, dude, that character, holy cow, him and was it Franklin from the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre? Oh my gosh, man, the wheelchair. Oh my goodness, man. So awesome. And then you know what? We'll just kind of go into it. What are your top 5 pieces in your collection?
Tough call, man. I'm gonna go with this Indicator box set of William Castle. This is their William Castle Volume 1 box set. Unfortunately, I got this after it went out of print, and I got a good deal for it on Amazon Marketplace. But the thing about Amazon Marketplace is it doesn't have pictures, so I couldn't see it. And when I got it, I found it was dented up. Yeah. Very sad, but at least I was able to get this out of print box set for a good price. But this thing means so much to me. I love the old William Castle movies. So in their own individual cases, it's got Homicidal, which is basically William Castle's version of Psycho. He's like, what? Psycho's a hit. I can do that. And he made Homicidal and it's super fun. Like, I love it. Mr. Sardonicus, great gothic horror movie. 13 Ghosts is like good. It's fun. It's definitely the weakest in here. And The Tingler. Oh my God. Have you seen The Tingler with Vincent Price? Oh, it's freaking crazy. He plays this scientist who discovers that anytime anyone is afraid, it's because there's this like giant centipede monster that's on their spine. And if you don't scream, then the monster will kill you. It's such a ridiculous premise, but it's awesome. It's so fun. I freaking love this thing. I love these movies. And it has like really good booklets and special features. There's a great documentary about William Castle in here. So I love that thing. I'm just going to keep talking about Indicator because I got one other Indicator. But have you gotten into Indicator at all?
I have not. Nope.
I'm only a little bit. Like I've only gotten a few things because they are very expensive if you live in the US. It is hard to import them. So I have a few things, but I love this thing so much. Mexico Macabre. This is a box set of Mexican horror films from the 50s to the 60s. And this was a total blind buy for me. I just talked about Indicator's expensive. I found this at a store for $30. It was when I was visiting a friend in Chicago, and Chicago stores are just way better than stores I have here. And I could not believe it. So I went in and bought it. I didn't know anything about the movies. And this box has basically what I hope for every time I blind buy a box set. Cause like the movies hit so good. So, yeah, all these classic Mexican films. And the thing about these is like, I've seen a lot of classic Italian Gothic films, you know, like the Mario Bava stuff, Barbara Steele. And a lot of those movies I like, but they tend to be very slow. You know, they have great atmosphere, not a lot with story or characters, but these movies have that atmosphere and they do have great stories and great characters. And they're just more interesting movies, like on a script level. So I was just blown away by these. So they really got me into Mexican horror. And now I'm a lot more interested in that now. So I love this thing.
Didn't you recently get that? I feel like you were.
It was last October, so I reviewed it last Halloween season.
Okay. I swear, like, yeah, I remember seeing a video about that.
Yeah, I did a video on it. I was so hyped. That was a fun video to do. Okay, moving out. Here's one you wouldn't. This is another one you wouldn't expect from me. This is Arrow's 4K release of Kevin Costner's Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, which is one of my favorite movies. And for a long time, this was the #1 4K I wanted, because this movie was on Blu-ray, but only the director's cut. So you could not get the theatrical cut on Blu-ray. And I just always thought it's one of the worst looking Blu-rays like I'd ever seen. I thought it was just a crappy Blu-ray. Like, just really wanted it on 4K. So I was super hyped when Arrow released this chunky box, as the Original Fuzz would say. I love Original Fuzz. He's one I forgot to shout out, but he has a great channel. And this, I usually don't buy these because they're just more expensive than I want to pay most of the time. But this one I had to get, and it looks absolutely beautiful on 4K. I love having the theatrical cut. It's just got a lot of goodies in here. And this is one of my favorite movies. Like, Robin Hood is just one of my favorite characters of all time. Like, I love a lot of Robin Hood movies. And this is one I grew up with my parents telling me it's terrible, because my parents hated this movie. They thought Kevin Costner was an awful Robin Hood. And then I watched it on my own as an adult, and I was like, this movie rules. What are they talking about? Like, I love this movie. And I tried to show it to my siblings because they also grew up being told it was bad. And I was like, no, you guys need to watch this. They were so bored. They did not want to get involved. And I'm like, this movie does not hit. I tried to show it to my wife. She was also so bored. I don't know, but I freaking love. Do you like this movie?
It's
yeah.
It's
see,
so man. Yeah, like, yeah. No. Because that 4K came out was it last year, right?
I think so.
Yeah, I remember seeing it, but yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that movie.
Yeah,
I like Men in Tights.
Oh, that's one of my least favorite Robin Hood movies. Oh, that's funny. Okay, so I have a lot of Severin box sets, and they're real hit or miss. But I think Severin's best work is All the Haunts Be Ours, a compendium of folk horror. So it's a folk horror box set. This thing is just unbelievable. Do you have this thing?
No, I started to get into Severin in April, and I simply love what I've bought from them. Like, oh my God. I saw that in someone else's video. But cool. Yeah, talk more about that, man.
Well, I have a real love-hate relationship with Severin because, like, I kind of think of like Vinegar Syndrome, they're the good guys, and Severin, they're kind of the bad guys, because I think Vinegar Syndrome, they put out a lot of schlock, right? That's what they do. But I do feel like they curate, and I do feel like they try to give their customers a good experience. My experience with Severin, I feel like they'll put out anything. Like, it doesn't matter like what it is. They'll just throw it out, and they'll kind of lie on the covers. They'll put things on the covers that are not in the movie. And they charge so much more that, like, Vinegar Syndrome will give you a fair price. It can be expensive, but for what you're getting, it's a fair price. a lot of times Severin will not give you a fair price. They don't really care. That's my thing on Severin. They kind of bother me sometimes, but this is their greatest work. This thing, you get what you pay for. It's absolutely beautiful. I pre-ordered this thing because I love folk horror stuff like The Wicker Man and Blood on Satan's Claw and The Witch. And this is a lot of really obscure stuff, but I think I feel a little bad putting this as one of my top because I haven't actually finished it. I've watched about half the movies. There's like 20 movies in here.
Oh, wow.
But there's only been one movie I didn't really like, which is like out of like some like 10 movies I watched in here, pretty darn good. It's got an amazing documentary in here called Woodlands, Darkened Days Bewitched, A History of Folk Horror. It's like a 3-hour documentary about folk horror. It's fascinating. Just loved it. And yeah, just a lot of weird, obscure foreign films, like this really cool Soviet witch movie called V from the 60s. It's like, holy cow. It's some of the weirdest stuff I've ever seen, but in a really entertaining way. Like Tilbury is about this old folklore of this creature that like nurses on women. And then if it does, it's like this little troll. I don't know. It's some of the weirdest stuff I've ever seen. But
sign me up.
Yeah, just like strange stuff from like other countries about their weird, obscure, spooky folklore, and it's just really cool. So I really like this thing.
Is that still available, or is that like out of print?
I think
or
so.
like,
I think Severin's box sets don't go out of print for like a long time.
Oh,
It seems
okay.
like most everything sticks around for a long time.
Nice.
So I think it is. It's expensive, but I do think you get what you pay for. And then, I mean, my favorite box set is the Universal Monsters box set. You know, a basic pick. It's not 4K. I understand that. I haven't upgraded them to 4K, but this thing just has everything I need. It's got like all 30 of the core monster movies. Like it doesn't have every Universal horror movie, but 30 of the core films. And it's just perfect. I just love having this thing in my collection.
Mm-hmm. Hell yeah. Yeah, the 4K transfers, man, they are spectacular, man. Oh,
I'm sure they are.
man.
I'm still like easing into 4K. I'm not 100% convert yet.
Yeah, I am all 4K for the most part, dude.
Yeah.
Jeez, man. Black and white is just fantastic in 4K. What is your favorite boutique label, and what are 5 or 3, whatever you want to give favorite movies within that label?
Ooh, okay. I'm gonna have to grab stuff because I didn't know I was gonna be asked this, but it's Vinegar Syndrome right now. Vinegar Syndrome's my favorite. I'll also tell you something I have not said publicly yet because I know some people are gonna judge me. I subscribed to Vinegar Syndrome this month.
Okay.
Okay. I did their halfway subscription. So I paid the high price. I'll get all their releases for the rest of the year. I'm very excited. It's something I've wanted to do for a long time. And like a few financial things just fell into place at the same time. And I was like, there's probably never going to be a better time. I'm going to do this now.
Why in the hell would people judge you for that?
Because people say like, oh, they just release a bunch of crap. Like they'll put out anything like, I've heard it all. I've heard all this stuff, people kind of make fun of the people who subscribe because like, oh, they're just throwing a bunch of money and they don't even know what they're getting. And it's just going to be a bunch of crap. But I don't think it is a bunch of crap because I do think some people are very uncurious about Vinegar Syndrome. They just kind of see like, oh, I've never heard of this stuff. It's probably bad. Who cares? But like, I'm very curious. So they release stuff and I'm like, what is that? I don't know what it is. I kind of want to watch it. And I like most of what I watch from Vinegar Syndrome. They release some bad movies, sure. But I do like most of it. And I do think they curate. And I do think they try to release stuff that their people will be interested in. And I usually am. And they do give you like a hints list of the kind of stuff they're going to release over, the next 6 months. And it looks really cool to me. Like there's a Vincent Price movie coming out. There's several like 80s horror classic 4Ks. So they say, there's a few box sets coming out that sound really cool. So I'm really, really excited for it.
Sweet, man. And then, like I said, so at least, what are some of your favorites within that label?
One of my top from them is Primal Rage. I love this movie. Love this movie. And I watched this just on Shudder and I loved it. And I was texting a friend. I have a friend who has been a Vinegar Vinegar Syndrome subscriber for years. So he's been a bit of my dealer because sometimes I'll get his discards for a cheap price.
Yeah.
But he was saying like, I watched that and I thought it was okay, but like, I'll just send it to you. And he just gave this to me.
Oh,
so
sweet.
shout out to him. That's Matt. He hosts the Film Feast podcast, which is a phenomenal film podcast. So, and that's kind of arrogant too, because I've been on that podcast many times. So you can check out. It's phenomenal when I'm not on it. So you can check that out. But yeah, man, this movie is just super, super fun. It's got a great documentary on there too about the making of it.
Oh, okay. One of my favorites, total surprise, is Ticks. Have you seen Ticks?
Yeah, I saw it on like Tubi. I don't own it, and I thought it was pretty fun. But maybe if I saw it in 4K, it would.
Dude, it is literally one of the best 4K transfers I have ever seen. Yeah, it is.
It was like dirt cheap for a while. I don't know if it's still.
I got it for like $20.
Yeah. It was in like subscriber week sale last year, I think.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Oh yeah. So at least a couple more.
Okay. Cool. This is Censor. Man, this is one of their VSP releases. This is one I first saw in streaming as well, and I bought it when they released it, which I'm so glad because this is one of those movies that could totally be lost on streaming, you know. And I'm just so glad they gave it preservation, I think. But it's one of my favorite modern horror movies. It's one of those, there's kind of too many modern horror movies that are like all 80s nostalgia because like Stranger Things really made that popular. But this movie it has something to say about the 80s. Like there's a reason that it takes place in the 80s. It's not just nostalgia bait. It has interesting commentary about the time, about the video nasties and such. And oh, it's so cool. I love this thing. I think I recently heard you talk about stop motion and you compare it to Censor. I had the exact same thought. I saw stop motion. I'm like, oh, this is a lot like Censor, except I think Censor's better.
Yeah, exactly. I kind of compared that to them to Ken mentioned it too. He's the one from Mid-Level Media. Him and his wife, Married with Media. I saw their review for it, and I didn't even hear about it until they mentioned it. And they thought it was okay, but it just sounded very interesting. And he just made it the comparison of Censor and Possessor, and those two movies. I love Censor and Possessor, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna watch it. So I watched it on Shudder right away. Like I needed to own it, and I got it just a few weeks ago. I really love stop motion. But anyway, yeah, Censor, that Vinegar Syndrome release is one of my favorite slip covers, limited editions in my entire collection. The art design in that is so damn beautiful. Oh, it's gorgeous, man.
Even this looks fantastic. That's the poster, so they can't take credit for it, but still.
Dude, look, everything in that. And it's and Censor. I recommend people to watch Censor all the damn time. Because I didn't know the whole era of video nasties back in the UK. And so I was like very intrigued of that whole, time period. And of course, this whole story in this horror movie, but it's still really cool just to learn about it. And then of course this takes a little dive, but it's just an interesting story in the movies. I find it very good. I know a lot of people kind of find it kind of boring, but like I really like Censor.
I didn't. It's not very long too. I think it's under 90 minutes. And that director, she has still not done anything else. And I'm like, why are people not giving her money? Like, make something else.
Because that came out 2020 or 2021.
I think maybe 21.
Yeah. Okay. One more.
I know what I got to do. I've got to shout out my boy, Paul Naschy. So I got to go the vampire versus the werewolf versus the vampire woman. I am a huge fan of Paul Naschy. He was a Spanish actor, writer, director, just all around filmmaker back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. This is 70s. And he just made a lot of really fun gothic horror movies. Like, again, there are a lot of old gothic horror films, very slow, atmospheric. Like, a lot of his movies are just like rock show versions, just tons of crazy stuff going on, super fun. And this, he plays a werewolf. He actually made like 9 movies about this one werewolf character that he plays named Waldemar Daninsky. And so it's like Waldemar Daninsky is like his James Bond. He made tons of movies about him. And this is one where Waldemar Daninsky fights an evil vampire woman, and it's very, very fun. And this is a 4K. And if you don't feel sold, like, look at that cover art. Look how cool that looks.
That is actually pretty tight.
And this is a movie that, like, it delivers. Like, it promises you a werewolf versus a vampire woman, and you get that, you know? Like, it's not clickbait. It's legit. It's actually not as sleazy as it looks. Like, it looks very sleazy. It's really not. Some of his movies are. This one really isn't. So that maybe that's a little bit clickbait. But I love. And Paul Naschy, they've released one other movie from. Oh, that's the wrong one. They also released Count Dracula's Great Love, which is his Dracula movie, which I was excited. I got this slipcover after it went out of print. Again, when I was in Chicago, there was like a vendor at an event I was at, and they were selling this for $20.
Wow.
That was super cool. It's a beautiful, beautiful slipcover right there. And this is a really cool movie too. Really weird.
Nice.
I kind of snuck 4 in there.
Oh, dude. Yeah, no, I love talking about physical media, man. So
absolutely,
it's all
man.
good, brother. What made you become a horror fan?
It was my dad and the Universal Monsters movies, but also horror was like incredibly impactful to me as a kid because I was terrified of it. Like, I love like Universal Monster stuff. That stuff's fun. You know, Dracula, Frankenstein, all good. But anything even slightly more modern, terrifying. I could not handle it. So it made a huge impact on me. And I like spent a lot of time thinking about it. And it was a bit of, you know, a big part of my life in kind of a negative way. However, now I look back on that like very nostalgically. Like, I don't think it's bad for kids to get scared of scary movies. You know, like, I know a lot of parents, you know, they want to protect their kids from getting too scared by things. I don't think that's bad. Like, I almost think it's like a rite of passage. But then my dad just kept pushing me to watch Poltergeist. He's like, I really think you'll like it. And I was like, I'm like, no, I'm too scared. And he was like, okay, well, let me just tell you about it. So he described the plot of Poltergeist to me. And it was like the scariest thing I'd ever heard. And I like did not sleep that night, like looking at my closet because there's, you know, the closet stuff in Poltergeist. And I was like too scared. And after that, the next day, he kept pushing it. And he was like, okay, just watch the beginning and see what you think. So I'm like, okay. So I sit down and the credit comes up produced by Steven Spielberg. And I was like, oh, like even at that kid, I knew Spielberg, like loved Jaws, Jurassic Park, Raiders of the Lost Ark, E.T. So I'm like, oh, Spielberg, like maybe I can watch this. So I watched it and I loved it. And that movie was my turning point. And ever since then, now horror is just fun for me, you know, like, and I would get scared by things sometimes, but always scared in a fun way. Like, it was never a miserable thing for me ever again. So, gosh, what was the original question? Oh yeah, a person. Yeah, it was my dad. My dad made me.
No, man, I love it, man, because you know, I've talked to a bunch of people, you know, within the horror community, and everyone, like, that's one of the common things. It's like Poltergeist is just one of their favorite movies. It's you. I literally don't know anyone who doesn't like Poltergeist. Even my wife likes Poltergeist, and she's not a big horror fan. So yeah, at some point, I mean, she's not gonna watch this damn video, but I'm gonna have my kids watch it too.
Yeah,
hell yeah, man! I love the damn movie. This you might go a little crazy, so be prepared. What are your favorite movies that you would recommend for someone to try to get into Hammer and Amicus?
Oh, okay. Cool. For Hammer, it kind of depends on like, there's like kind of 2 different avenues. Like, one, if you do like more just like great movies, then I think you cannot go wrong kicking off with like their original Gothic horror films, Horror of Dracula and Curse of Frankenstein. It's their first Dracula movie, their first Frankenstein movie. I still think those are their 2 best movies. They're just perfect representations of the Dracula story, the Frankenstein story in their own way. Like, they're very unique. They're not the Mary Shelley, Bram Stoker work, but they're just phenomenal movies. You get Peter Cushing, Christopher Lee at their absolute best in both movies. But if you're like a Vinegar Syndrome or Severin person, and you like schlocky, sleazy kind of stuff, then I say go to their 70s stuff. And I would point you to Twins of Evil, which is a vampire movie in which these two Playboy twins play twins, and one of them's like becomes a vampire, and one of them's the good one, and that's a movie that like throws so much horror stuff into one thing. Like it's got vampires, but it's also got witch hunters, witchcraft, and devil worship, and say it's got so much crazy stuff, and it's so much fun. That's Twins of Evil. And then another one from the 70s I really love is Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde, which is like a very, exploitation kind of version of Jekyll and Hyde, where, Dr. Jekyll is a man and Mr. Hyde is a woman. So it's this kind of like transgender allegory that's kind of interesting, but also very much 70s exploitation schlock. But it's still like a good movie, I think. And it's also kind of a Jack the Ripper movie at the same time, which is cool. So if you like the sleazier, weirder stuff, I would point you to those two. For Amicus, I would say watch Tales from the Crypt. Tales from the Crypt is like the classic. It's the most popular Amicus movie for sure. Every segment is good. And plus, if you're interested in like Hammer Amicus at all, you're probably at least familiar with the Tales from the Crypt TV show. So you'll be interested in seeing like the original version, other than the comic books, of course.
Okay. Yeah, man, I wrote some of those down, so don't mind me.
Cool. They pretty much all have boutique releases, so
okay. Where would you find those movies at? Like the ones that you recommend?
Yeah, so unfortunately, Tales from the Crypt is available from Scream Factory, but only in a double pack with Vault of Horror. So I know some people do not like double packs, and maybe a deal breaker. Twins of Evil is available from Synapse. And it's not very expensive. You can usually find it on Amazon pretty cheap. Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde, Scream Factory, and then Horror of Dracula and Curse of Frankenstein are both from Warner Archive, which is kind of sad for me because like they really deserve nicer releases. Actually, the Warner Archive release of Curse of Frankenstein is pretty good. It's got a lot of special features. Horror of Dracula has no special features. The transfer is okay. But like, I think that's a movie that deserves like a Criterion or a Second Sight or like something. I mean, that's a legendary movie. It's Hammer's first vampire movie, and that's like their biggest thing. So that movie really deserves more, but I don't know. That's what we got right now.
What is your favorite horror subgenre, and what is your favorite movie within that subgenre?
Well, it is vampires.
Okay.
For sure. I just love
Fright Night, yeah.
It would be Fright Night, but I'll give a runner up. I would say Bram Stoker's Dracula that Coppola made in the 90s. Oh my God, that is such a perfect movie. I love everything about that. I know Keanu Reeves. I get it. I don't care. I don't care about the Keanu Reeves thing. It's just so operatic and dramatic, and the effects are amazing, and Gary Oldman is amazing.
I gushed over Gary Oldman, man, and my little vampire video that I did. Friggin', I can't stop talking about Gary Oldman and Dracula. Oh my God, he's so damn good.
And I wouldn't think of him as like being a great Dracula. Like that's not immediately obvious. And then you watch the movie, and I'm like, oh my God, he pulled it off. Like he did it.
He's literally like one of the best.
Yeah,
in my opinion. Oh my gosh. So then, okay. So what's your favorite genre within the horror genre?
Other than vampires?
Yeah, I guess other than vampires. Yeah, sorry.
Next up would probably be slashers.
Okay.
Probably. I love slashers. Like I especially love like the 80s stuff, the classics. But I like a lot of, lesser known slashers too. I have 2 different like top 10 lists on my channel of like underrated 80s slashers, highlighting those more obscure ones. I would say I wouldn't say it's obscure, but like my favorite like non-big franchise 80s slasher is My Bloody Valentine. Absolutely love My Bloody Valentine. I think it's like so good. It's still like, I know a lot of people love it, but I still feel like it's kind of underrated.
Yeah, that's a good one because there's some damn good memorable kills in that one,
especially with the unrated cut that Scream Factory restored, which is amazing. That's probably one of their greatest contributions to the world is like they restored all the gore from My Bloody Valentine.
I still need to. It's been a long time since I've seen the remake.
I've only kind of seen it. Like I watched it with a buddy one time when we were like kind of hanging out. So it's never gotten my full attention. So I should give it another chance. I thought it was okay, but again, it wasn't a great viewing experience.
Is there a horror movie that you refuse to watch, or is a movie that's been very unsettling to you that you just won't rewatch again?
Yeah, I'm actually not one of those horror fans that like I'll watch anything. I do have certain lines I don't want to cross. I've seen half of Cannibal Holocaust and I just decided I can't do this. Like, I don't want
Hmm.
any more of this in my brain. I was watching it with a group of friends and they all finished it. And I was like, I'm not finishing this, which is weird because I'm the biggest horror fan out of everybody, but still,
Hmm.
I just couldn't handle it. Um, I will not watch Human Centipede because when I even like think of the premise of that movie, like, I wish I could forget it, and I certainly don't want to see it. Um, I don't really want to get into the like the French extremism stuff. Like I don't want to watch Martyrs. I've seen High Tension, but I almost feel like that's like the gateway French extremism. So like I watch that, but I don't really want to watch Martyrs.
It was for me.
Yeah, I'll never watch a Serbian film for sure. I can't imagine.
Yeah.
I can't believe anybody wants to watch that, but you know, have
There's
at it,
some.
I guess.
Yeah.
But I'm not watching that. As
No
far as
comment. Yeah, exactly.
my least favorite movie of all time, I don't even know if you will exactly, it is technically a horror movie, is Kevin Smith's Tusk. That's like
Oh,
the one movie I regret watching. I want it out of my head. It's like the most disgusting thing I've ever seen, and I will never watch it again because it's so unbelievably gross and I hate it.
wow. Okay. Okay. That's a movie I was not expecting for you to say. Okay.
I know some people like it. I don't know, just the image of what that doctor turns Justin Long into, I want to wipe it from my brain. I don't ever want to see that again. That's the grossest thing I've ever seen.
Damn, that's hilarious. uh, a little segue then. What is your favorites or what? Yeah, what are your favorite films of horror films of 2024? And because you recently just did a video about it, but for
I
those
did.
who haven't, like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, absolutely. And I've seen some things since then. I actually think this has been a really good year for horror. I've heard a lot of people say quite the opposite. I think it's been a lot of good stuff. I think my favorite of the year is still Immaculate, which I'm one of the weirdos that thinks that's a lot better than the First Omen. Like I thought the First Omen, and I watched the First Omen first actually, and I was like, that's pretty good. And then I saw Immaculate, and I was like, this is fun. Like that
It,
is a
it's
wild,
it's
wacky
much
movie.
better in my opinion. Like the first
Yeah.
Omen's good, but there's a lot of like stuff that it takes away. Like there's like a possession. Like there's a scene when
Oh yeah.
Neely, yeah, dude, like it's almost like the same acting motions and dude, like First Omen's good. I like the film because they came out like what 2 weeks within a week from each other. I
I
mean,
think it
they're
was a month or
what
two.
really? Okay. Well, yeah, very,
I think.
very close, but like either way, yeah. What? Yeah, Immaculate's way better, in my opinion.
Yeah. Like the First Omen's like the more straight, normal version. And then Immaculate's like crazy. And it's got a twist at the third act that I did not see coming. I'm like, I can't believe they're going there, but like,
Hmm.
I love it. I respect it.
Hmm.
Super fun. And then I think my next two favorites are In a Violent Nature, which I know you reviewed too. Loved In a Violent Nature. I was just so into the vibe of that movie. And The Vortilac, which is this French vampire period piece folk horror film that I only discovered existed because of I mentioned them again, the Splattercast guys. They reviewed it, and I was like, "Oh my god, I have to see that movie." It's not really available right now. I was able to get a screener because the Splattercast guys hooked me up, which was really nice. But it's technically in theaters, but it's super limited, so I don't know when it's going to hit streaming. But it's really cool, and what's really cool about it is it's this, you know, very classy vampire film. It almost feels like a Robert Eggers kind of a thing, but the vampire is played by a puppet. It is not an actor. It's like a marionette, and it's
What?
so weird and uncanny and creepy. And I thought it was like awesome. Like I just loved it.
What?
It's really strange because everything else is played completely straight, and then you've got this weird puppet vampire thing, and it's so cool.
Whoa. Okay. Okay. Yeah,
Uh,
I'm gonna. Yeah, I've. Okay, I'm gonna check that one out. You said it's still technically in theaters, but at some
Yeah,
point it'll be.
technically. I mean, the way the world is today, it'll probably be on streaming in like a week or two. It's, you
Yeah.
know, it doesn't take long these days.
Okay. Whoa, okay, man. I'm really intrigued by that. Okay.
I think you'd like it. Yeah, because I know you're really hyped for Nosferatu. And watching the
Yes.
Vordelak was like, it almost felt like I was getting this little taste of Nosferatu, you know, like it was this little appetizer.
Yeah. Robert Eggers has not missed, in my opinion. Like The Northman is so damn good. I think it is, and it's cinematography is gorgeous in that movie as well. But jeez, man. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Ooh! Okay. I'm so that is my movie
Me
of the
too.
year. Is that one, and it sucks because it's December. I think is the release date.
It's Christmas Day, and like there's absolutely no way I can get to the movie as Christmas Day or Christmas Eve. So I'm just really hoping a theater near me does like an early, like a Wednesday night screening or something, because they did for Maxine. So I'm thinking like
Mhm.
maybe, you know, that would be
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, I thought that was hella odd just because Terrifier 3 takes place during Christmas time and it's releasing, early
In
October.
Halloween, yeah, it's like I don't
Yeah,
want to watch a Christmas tree in
yeah.
October. Come
Oh,
on.
dude. Yeah. Okay.
I do
Oh,
really want to see Terrifier 3 though, because I love Terrifier 2.
yeah. I'm on the fence. I always say that I do like the movie as a whole. I love Art the Clown. I
Mhm.
watched the movie because of the character. I wasn't a fan of the original Terrifier. Like it's okay to me.
It
And
is,
I
yeah.
and Hollow's Eve, I thought they were just mediocre movies.
Yeah,
But
I'd probably never watch it
e-
again.
even though the actors were different from Hollow's Eve to Terrifier 1, I still really liked that character art. And then who is it? The actor David
David
something.
Howard Thornton.
He plays him so damn well, and it's hilarious. And obviously it's gruesome, but like I think to me it's a good balance for what at least what I'm looking for. And then of course Terrifier 2 steps it up a notch, but I think it's a better overall film in itself.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to Terrifier 3, but yeah. Oh, so
Art the
uh
Clown is great because he's like a slasher that like genuinely makes me uncomfortable. Whereas like, you know, Michael Myers, Freddy, Jason, I love them. I could hug them. They're like buddies at this point,
mhm.
icons. But like Art the Clown genuinely unsettles me and makes me uncomfortable. And like looking at him is like a scary thing. And that's a special thing to be able to do that to a seasoned horror fan, you know, like you really hit something if you can do that.
One of the things you just talked about it is what I love is that his character is predictable at
Oh
times.
yeah. Like when he pulls out the gun in the first one and you're like, what is going on?
Mhm. And then what is it? They're doing I don't watch trailers. I try not to, but like what I've heard it's like there's like a little scene or a little image of like him and a kid and like people
Oh
are
yeah,
like
that's all the
what the
controversy.
hell's going to happen, and because, it's Art the Clown. Anything could fucking happen, man. Like
Mhm.
so, but that's one of the great things that's really intriguing about that character. And what I think that the creators and what they do is they kind of embrace that. Um, I think I'm just talking myself a little bit more into the damn thing, but like
Yeah,
it's
you
true.
are.
But yeah, it's good, man. I think that's what horror kind of needs. Because my other question is, what do you think is the current state of the horror genre?
I think it's great. I think it's really, really good because it's like super diverse right now. There's so much different kinds of stuff. Because horror is, I mean, is it the most successful genre right now? It kind of feels like it is. Like as some other things are falling off and it's really unpredictable what's going to hit, what's not. Horror has remained pretty consistent. And you know, when I was like a young adult in like the early 2010s, I was like really kind of I was a little bummed on modern horror because it was so many haunted house movies about families in haunted houses. And it was that over and over again. It was The Conjuring, blah, blah, blah. And I got kind of burned down on it. But now you got a lot of slasher stuff, but you've also got a lot of supernatural stuff. You got vampires are making a huge comeback this year. There's so much interesting, there's so many interesting things. There are all of these studios that are doing it. I mean, you got Blumhouse, which I don't hate as much as a lot of other people do. For the most part, I think they make pretty good gateway horror movies. You know, not everything has to be hardcore for us weirdos. But you got A24, you got Neon, you got Shudder doing
Mm,
Shudder originals. Like there's all these really cool companies making all this stuff. And it's by far like the genre I'm the most interested in right now. At this point, most of the new releases I see are horror movies. Like that's
mm.
by far what I'm the most interested in modern film. And I think there's a lot of good stuff. Like I already like have a pretty solid top 10 of the year so far. And we're only a little over halfway through.
Hmm. But better make some room for Nosferatu.
Oh, it's gonna be if it's not number one, I'm gonna be so sad.
I know exactly. Yeah, I think because last year I thought it was okay, but like this year overall, like because I think modern horror is getting better at overall, and you just touch upon it. It's getting a lot more diverse. Um, People may not like it, but I really liked the in violent nature.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just stated, like some people think it's kind of boring, but like I think it's just something what we kind of needed. Uh, is to have a movie like that because we've been asking for a damn movie like that for Jason, at least that type of perspective and everything else like that. And of course, there's like an all time kill in that movie. Like, but anyway, yeah, I do think that it's overall. I would say it's pretty diverse, and it makes me very happy because again, like stop motion and stuff like that, and people are watching new horror like IP movies, and that to me is very important. And it's not just the damn franchise movies, because to me the last couple Scream movies has been terrible.
Oh, I
um
like Scream 6 a lot.
oh dude,
I'm
I
sad
do
that that's not
not.
continuing and that whole thing is just dead. I'm like, oh, all
Ugh.
right.
But yeah, I'm not a fan of Scream 6. I like how they have the killers like Ghostface, because he's pretty badass in that movie. But like, and then anyway, yeah. But overall, as a whole, like, I'm just really happy that people are like watching the new modern horror movies, and it's doing pretty well in box office. That's really important, at
Yeah.
least to me. So, um, yeah. Thank you, Daniel. I really appreciate it. We're almost done. You touched upon it earlier, but what is the best advice you give someone who is a new YouTuber? Uh, yeah. Yeah. Some of your advice.
Yeah. So the best advice I think I've ever heard that I like hold on to the most, and it's nothing that like anyone's personally told me. I've never reached out to anyone and like asked for advice before. But I will like watch videos about like, how to succeed on YouTube and such. And I think the best thing you do is try to find a way to provide value, because there's so many channels out there putting out so many different kind of videos. And I really think it's a good idea to genuinely think, okay, what's not really being provided that like I can do, and like people will find value in it, and like what can I provide? So that's something that I really like. I try to do, because I will sometimes do videos on like, things that I know a lot of other people have done. And like, that's okay to do sometimes, but I really do try to be unique, and I try to find video ideas that not a lot of other people are doing. And just, that's what I get the most excited about, is if there's like a video that's like a little more unusual. But that there's also like a market for that people are actually interested in, because you can go so niche that like nobody cares.
Mm,
But I really think that's a good idea. And to think about like what makes you personally unique, and what can you do easier than a lot of other people can do. Like I can talk about Hammer movies easily because I genuinely love them. But for a lot of other people, it'd be very hard to do a Hammer video because like they don't really love those movies. So it'd be this struggle to like push through them. So you think like, what can I do that's a lot easier and possibly better than most anyone else can do? And I think that's the best way to build up a channel. So to really just think about how you can provide value, how you can provide something that people want and will enjoy and aren't getting everywhere else.
mm. Excellent advice. I love it.
Thank you.
I love it. man of wisdom.
And get a good mic.
Get a good
Don't
mic.
skimp on sound quality.
Oh man, yeah, that video that you had for your 10K. Yeah, you had it in yourself.
Oh,
Yeah,
my 2013, my first ever video.
yeah, yeah,
Oh, it's
yeah,
so terrible. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, I agree with the mic thing because I just dove in head first into YouTube, and I just had my, I didn't have a mic or anything, but it's very important to have that for sure. It's something just so little, but like it definitely is an important factor.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if people can't listen to you or hear you, then dang.
Yeah.
So thank you, Daniel. I really appreciate you coming interviewing for the channel. Thank you so much. All of his social media accounts, his YouTube channel, all those links will be on there. Follow him. He is so dang cool. Yeah, man, buddy. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And thank you to everyone. Yeah, hit that like and subscribe button. Thank you to my tier members, John from Let's Talk Entertainment Media, William Driver, and Insomniac. So thank you guys. Follow Daniel at the Cobwebs channel. So thank you guys. Have a
Thank
good
you.
one.